Good morning. How are you doing today, my friend? Man, it's good to be back in Vegas. I spent all last week in Lake Tahoe, and don't get me wrong, it's beautiful up there, nice and chilly in the morning, a crisp 38 degrees. But there's just something about Vegas that I like. My wife doesn't like it so much, but it's growing on her. It's growing on her. Hey, I wanted to reach out today and had a great weekend. I got to be on Dropping Bombs yesterday with Brad Lee. I got to have dinner with Clint Arthur on Friday night. And then I got to watch the Knights lose on Saturday, but that's all right because they're going to win in a couple days, right? They're going to win it all. But I want to go over something that, a book that I recently read, or I should say listened to via Audible. I think you should be reading or listening to a book every day, and if you can't get through a book a week, then, do one a month. But every day you should be doing it. This morning when I was in the shower, I was listening to Andy Frisella on his podcast. When I was cooking breakfast, I was listening to a chapter of the latest book I'm listening to. So I'm constantly trying to learn, and I think you should too. And if you want to become a successful in life, not necessarily just a successful business person, but successful in life, you really need to be constantly feeding your brain. Personal development, constantly learning. And Audible makes that extremely easy. So if you don't have an Audible account, go to Audible and get one. Yesterday I was on the show with Brad, and he's like, man, do you guys stock an Audible or something, or affiliate link? Because you keep saying it. But I'm like, well, Brad, you asked me, how do you become successful in life with your marriage, as being a parent, business owner, employee? It's by personal development, learning, and reading and listening and going to seminars. But I wanted to go over a book that I recently read, and this is really for my business owners out there, or my entrepreneurs that want to be an entrepreneur. And I wish I would have read this book, or in this case, listened to this book, 10 years ago. And I've been following some of the principles of the book, but not all of them. And the book that I'm talking about is in the title, Profit First. My friend Damon told me about this book back in February, maybe. Damon owns the Credit Pros. This will be the 6th year in a row they've been on the Inc. 5000. Great. Him and Jason are great guys. Great people. But he had recommended that. Now think about that. That should tell you what kind of people Jason and Damon are. Here he's in the same business as me, and we're not really competition, if you will. We started our companies about the same time, about 11 years ago. Mine's Fortress Credit Pro. Jason and Damon's is the Credit Pros. I'm on the West Coast, he's on the East Coast. But I don't think it would matter if I was just down the street from him. He'd still want to help me, and I really appreciate that. So here's a guy that you could say we're in competition, but he tells me, and he coaches me on things, and I try to help them when I can help them. But he told me to get this book, Profit First. And so I did. And I listened to it. And I immediately implemented some of the things that he was talking about in the book, Profit First. So if you're a business owner, if you want to be a business owner, or entrepreneur, I highly recommend you get your hands on Profit First. Now, one of the things that he teaches in there is, if you can imagine, with the title Profit First, is the opposite of how CPAs, bookkeepers, and I'm going to guess 99.9% of business owners on the planet, they do it the old traditional 100 years ago bookkeeping. And that is sales minus expenses equals profit. That's generally how business owners do it. That's how the tax professionals and the CPAs and the bean counters are taught. Sales, expenses, profit. That's how I did it. I brought money in, I paid expenses, what was left over was profit. But after listening to this book, with Michael, I realized I've been doing it wrong. I've been doing it completely wrong. I've been doing it like everybody else does it. I've been doing it the way I've been told. And he talked about how at the end of the year he went and met with his tax professional, and they're like, hey, congratulations, Michael. You had a profit of $160,000. And Michael's thinking to himself, I don't have a single penny in the bank account. How could I have had a profit? And I've had those situations. And I remember asking my CPA or enrolled agent, whichever one it was that was doing my taxes, how do I have a profit? I don't have any money. You know, my wife and I are still squatting in homes. We're still eating beans and rice. And we turn off the electricity. We don't have cable. We barely have internet. How did I make money and I got nothing to show for it? And he's like, no, you were successful. Look right here on this line right here on your tax return. It says profit. And you got to pay taxes on it. And I didn't understand it. And so instead of really diving in, I just said, okay, I guess I need to, I just trusted the accountant, the bookkeeper, and said, okay, I guess I need to pay taxes on that profit. But listening to this book really opened my eyes up to how our system is wrong. Because it shouldn't be sales, expenses, profit. It should be sales, profit, expenses. Now, how is that possible? How can you have profit before your expenses? And what Michael goes over in the book is how you as the business owner need to establish profit prior to paying expenses. And I've done that in my life, kinda. Not exactly the way he said to do it, but I have done it in my life. You know, I'm a big believer of paying myself first. I read Richest Man in Babylon at least once a year. It's one of my favorite financial books. You hear me talk about it all the time. And I've always paid myself first, but I wasn't doing the profit thing first. Yeah, I was paying myself first. I was getting dividends and I was getting a salary when I actually made a profit. But I was paying myself basically what the company could afford or what I needed to have to live comfortably. That's how I was paying myself first. And after listening to this book, I realized I was doing it wrong. I was doing it the way everybody else does. Sales, expenses, profit, salary. And he flipped that upside down. It's sales, profit, owner's comp, income, expenses. Oh, no, and taxes in front of expenses. So you pay profit, owner's comp, income, and taxes prior to expenses. And what you have left over goes towards your expenses. Is that crazy? Think about that. I know you're thinking it's crazy. If you're a business owner right now, you're thinking, that's insane. Profit first? But he makes a good point in the book. Why did you start the company in the first place? Was it so you could have a job, or was it so you could have the life you've always dreamed of? See, most people will go and they create a business and they're just technically self-employed. And if they leave, if they have a bad day or they take a vacation, I have a friend that her and her husband run an amazing operation. People love it. People come from all over the world to go see them. But they're there 7 days a week. They take 1 week of vacation a year. And when they go on vacation, they close their doors. So when they're on vacation, they're not making any money at all. See, I wouldn't want that life. They like it. I wouldn't want that life. You know, someone commented yesterday that I work too much. And she's like, hey, it's Sunday. Don't you ever take a day off? And I want to respond with, average people take days off. I don't want to be average. But that's not really why I didn't take the day off. Is because Brad asked me to come down and do it dropping bombs. and I don't really consider it work. It's my passion. It's what I love doing. So I want you to check out that book, Dropping Bombs. I want you to sign up for the podcast notifications on that for Dropping Bombs with Brad Lee. Follow Brad on Instagram and Facebook. He's an amazing guy, heart of gold, one of the most caring guys I've ever met, especially guys with money. Brad's a multimillionaire, and he's one of the kindest, caring guys I've ever met. So check out Brad Lee, Dropping Bombs. But check out the book, Profit First. It's really important if you're an entrepreneur or you want to be an entrepreneur, what Brad calls a wantrepreneur. Profit first. Again, it's sales. The way you're taught right now is it's sales, expenses equals profit. And what Michael talks about in the book is no, it's sales, profit, owner's comp, income, and taxes, then expenses. And that was another thing that was interesting about this book. He has the company pay the taxes. That was eye-opening for me. I talk a lot about taxes and how to legally pay less taxes. You pay your fair share. Everybody needs to pay their fair share. But you can legally pay less than what your average bookkeeper will tell you have to pay. But what Michael talks about in this book, Profit First, is have the company pay the taxes. I'd never thought about that before. I honestly had never even considered my company paying my personal income taxes. But what he said was, you went into business for the lifestyle. And it's because of the business you owe the taxes in the first place, so the business should have to pay the taxes. Think about that. The business is paying your taxes. I'm not going to pay taxes anymore. I personally am not going to pay one dime in taxes anymore. Not one single penny. Now I'm talking about income tax, because I can't get around some of the other tax, right? Your property tax and some of that stuff. But at this point, I am no longer going to pay one single penny in income tax. My business is going to pay my income taxes from now on. I've already called the bank, and he talks about how to set up multiple bank accounts. I already called my banker and said, I need these 5 new accounts set up, and these are what I want you to call them. And today, at the end of the day, I'm going to go in and I'm going to start transferring money out of my operating account, like he taught in the book. So check out the book, Profit First. I'm going to publicly say thank you, Damon, from the Credit Pros, one of the best credit repair companies on the planet. Thank you so much for referring this book to me, because it's an amazing book, and I'm already applying what they've taught in it, and now I can see how you and Jason have applied it to your business. All right, there's a couple questions up here. Since I'm parked, I'll answer them. Somebody asked if I got the Duramax. Not yet. It was, man, that was one of the strangest experiences at a car dealership I've had. And I've had a lot of weird dealership experiences. But that was one of the 1950s hard closing, cigarette smelling, voice crackly dude, right? Was trying to force me to buy that black Duramax, and I didn't want a black Duramax. I want the red one. And he's like, well, you got to take what you can get, son. I'm like, I know I don't. And I said, I'll just go find a red one, right? And then earlier in the day, he's like, hey, is that your Porsche sitting out there? And I said, nope, don't have a Porsche, sir. I wasn't the Ferrari. But it was just one of those experiences that you see on TV or you hear about, that crusty old car dealership salesman, the car salesman guy. He was the what's the word I'm looking for? atypical. No, that's not the word. But car salesman. He's the bad thing that you think about car salesmen. So you got to take what you can get, son. No, I don't. I will go somewhere else. And I did. I left. But no, I haven't bought the Duramax yet, and I probably won't buy it until October, November. I'm waiting for the 2019s to come out so I can get some huge rebates on the 2018s. And that was one of the things I said to him. I'm like, no, I'll wait till October so I can get a rebate on the 18. He's like, they don't offer rebates on 18s. I said, they will in October when they're trying to get rid of them. Let's see. Justin says, I had to set up the accounts. I had to take everything off. Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, so Justin, you actually did the profit first. That's awesome. But I had to take everything I had, but still have profit first. I'm not sure what you mean you had to take everything I had. I'm not sure. Maybe that means that you're not profitable, so you didn't have any profit left over, or did you follow the percentages that Michael talked about? Justin's talking about in the book, he tells you set up 5 different bank accounts and how you immediately transfer money on the 10th and the 25th. You transfer a portion of what's in your checking account, regardless of what your accountant says, regardless of what you're doing in the past. You transfer a set percentage to these 5 business accounts, and then on 2 of them, you transfer them to another bank that you don't get statements on, you don't have an ATM card, and you can't just pull the money out. And those are your taxes and some profit over there. So that way you're not looking at it. Where is it at? I'm not you mean Audible. Let me read this. Michael Nolan says, I have a card with a monthly fee. They won't get rid of it. Will it drop my score if I close it? Probably, Michael, your card, if you're still on, most likely your score will go down if you close that account. But it depends on how many other old credit cards you have. So if that's your only credit card and it's your oldest credit card and you close it, I can almost guarantee your score is going to go down. If you got 4 or 5 other accounts and they're all seasoned, over 7 years old, they're all positive. If you drop one of multiple cards, you're probably not going to see a big drop, if any. But if it's your only card or your oldest card and all your other stuff is new, then yeah, it is eventually going to cause you problems. What I recommend on the monthly fees, if it's a monthly fee, that's telling me that's probably one of those low limit, like $300, $500 bad credit cards that you got when you had bad credit or you didn't have credit. If that's the case, Michael, I would dump that card. Because what happens when you have those $300, $200 high-risk cards, the other credit card companies will see that, and when you go to apply for credit, that's what they're going to give you. They're going to give you another $500 limit. So if it's one of those like First Premier, First Progress, and it's your oldest one, I would still dump it. Because those cards have a different negative impact on you than just the credit score. So I would dump that. I thought you meant annual fee. Usually on the annual fees, you get way more in value than the annual fee costs you. So if it's one of those First Progress or First Premiers, I would dump it. Glenn Palmer, Sheriff Palmer. We also learned so we don't have to make the same mistakes over and over again. Glenn, I totally agree with you, my friend. But you know what I would rather do? I would rather learn from other people's mistakes so I don't have to make that mistake. And that's why one of the reasons I like to read and listen to books constantly is, Andy Frisella, one of my good friends, runs a $200 million a year company, First Form. $200 million a year he brings in. And he talks about mistakes that he made in his business almost every day almost every show on his podcast. I'd rather listen to Andy explain how he made a mistake so I don't have to do it. But I completely agree with you, Glenn. It's so we don't make the mistakes over and over again. I see people do that constantly, right? Every day we see that on the credit reports, making those mistakes, and it's a shame. But I like to listen to books and read books so I can learn how not to make a mistake. Somebody said, Rob just said he downloaded 4 Hour Work Week. Hey, 4 Hour Work Week's a great book. It's one of my favorites. Love that book. I listen to it every year. Oh, here it is. That Justin, you answered me. Cool. So you said, had to take all my money, but still have the accounts. I set my profit account for 10%. That's awesome. You know, Michael talks about in the book to set it at 1%. You know, not to go all the way to 10%. I went to 10% myself because, you know, we are profitable. It's just I wasn't doing what he said. And I was having to look at my profit and loss statement every quarter to see if, you know, how much profit we made. So I went immediately to the 10% as well. But in the book, he says to start at 1% and then go to 3 and then 6 and then 9 and then 10. So that's awesome that you set your profit at 10. Just make sure that you're profitable when you do that and you're not transferring it back. You know, and he brought up a good valid point with this. And I was one of these people that would do this. I would forego my salary, my income for the company, and I would reinvest back into my company. And Michael talks about this in Profit First. You know, if you have stocks, I'm sitting here at Starbucks and I'm getting ready to buy my tax deductible coffee. But if I had stock in that company and every 90 days they send me dividends and they send me a dividend check of $20 or $12 or $18, whatever, I wouldn't send that dividend money back to the company saying, hey, reinvest this $20. I don't need it. Reinvest it back in the company. No, I wouldn't do that. But that's what you and I do with our businesses. We get a dividend and then we reinvest it. We give it back to the company. That's not how it should work. And if you have an established business, it might be difficult to transfer over to this new way of thinking, but that's why you start at 1% and then gradually grow it up to 10%. So an amazing book, Profit First. Highly recommend it. If you're an entrepreneur or you're an entrepreneur, get the book Profit First and start applying what he teaches in that book, and it'll make all the difference in your business. You won't be one of the statistics that 80% of them go out of business in 5 years. And then the 20% that made it, 80% of them go out of business in the next 5 years. Almost always because they run out of money, because they were doing it the traditional way. Sales in, expenses equals profit. And when you run your company like that, you're going to fail. It needs to be sales, profit, expenses. You pay your expenses with the money left over after you take out your owner's comp, income, salary, taxes, after the profit comes out. All right. See you later.